Thank you for calling the Venue Helpline, the podcast where venues share their biggest frustrations, toughest challenges, and behind the scenes headaches. If you run a venue or work at one and you've ever thought, oh, why is this so hard? You're in the right place. Each week, you'll hear practical solutions from vetted experts who've been there, done that, and know what actually works. Because running a venue is hard enough. You shouldn't have to figure it out alone. Now, let me put you on a brief hold for the next available helper.
Hi, glad you called. It's Shannon here with the Venue Help Desk. Tell me what's going on.
I know I'm supposed to be on Instagram as a venue, but honestly, I don't really know how couples are actually using it. Are they searching for venues there? Are they just scrolling for inspiration? Like, how are they even finding me? I'm not sure what I should be posting or if it's even worth the time. I definitely want to meet them where they are, but I feel like I'm just kind of throwing stuff at the wall. So, can we just back up a bit? How are couples actually using Instagram when they're planning their weddings?
That's such a great question that so many venues are thinking the same thing. So let's see if I can help guide you through a different way to look at the Instagram platform. It's common for you to feel unsure about how they're using the platform. You keep hearing over and over and over again, I have to be on Instagram. We have to be doing Instagram. But we don't really know the time, the effort, the energy you're putting into it, if it's actually worth it, or if the posting you're doing is having any kind of effect on the growth of the business. But your strategy in this platform does really matter. I know for so many people who've maybe been in the industry a long time, or for venue owners who might not be young, fresh spring Gen Z chickens, Instagram kind of feels like a little bit of a black box. We grew up with Facebook as the primary platform. I know you're probably an Instagram user and consumer of content, but going at it from a strategy as a business is very different than just posting for fun and for friends. And it's really okay and fair for you to have that lack of confidence about how couples are actually discovering them, or when they find your account, how are they evaluating you? What are the things they're considering? So today, I'm going to break down how couples use Instagram and how your venue can use content and the DMs strategically to get them off the platform and into your actual sales funnel. One of the challenges is in our industry of the wedding specifically, there's so much great education out there when it comes to social media. But the problem is a lot of it doesn't really fit the venue business model because venues are top of funnel when it comes to marketing, meaning couples who are engaged find you and book you before anyone else. Because you're top of funnel, it's a little bit different. The couples use Instagram very differently because their planning stage is a little bit different. When they're finding and looking for a venue, they haven't really looked at a whole lot when it comes to making choices and choosing vendors and things for their wedding. You're the very first thing they're looking at. So that can create a little bit of confusion as to where to post. Are they newly engaged? Are they not even engaged yet? What types of content should we be posting based on what stage they are in the sales funnel? A lot of times I also see that venues post a lot of pretty pictures, actual real weddings and only real weddings and just pretty things, but that doesn't really help the couples considering your venue as a viable place to get married. It doesn't really help them make the decisions. It's so much more on Instagram than just a posting platform. It's a communication platform. It's a place for you to change that mindset to say, what's the messaging? What do I want them to know about me? Not just what do I want them to see. There's also a ton of missed opportunities that I see venues making when it comes to the DM specifically because venues don't know how to start or guide the conversations. And I'll give you some tips for that today. This post and hope strategy that you've been living when it comes to Instagram, it's such wasted time and it's disconnected content. So let's guide you through all the different changes you can make to fix all the way through. There's three different ways that couples are actually using Instagram during the planning process. First is discovery. They're just scrolling around looking. They go into hashtags. Sometimes they go into the map search. They might be scrolling along and they see vendors that post pretty things about weddings in your area and they click on it to say, oh, what venue is that? or even the platform itself, once they know they're planning a wedding based upon how they're consuming content, what videos they're watching, what things they're looking at, what they're searching, it actually starts to recommend accounts specifically to them that they should be following. People in this discovery phase, they're just getting ideas and trying to see what's out there. What do they like? They do a lot of saving of things when they're in the discovery phase, but they're really just getting started. And you want to make sure that you're getting found there. Next up is the validation. They've discovered your account and now they want to dig a little bit deeper and validate you, how quality you are, what you actually offer. This is when they're clicking into your account specifically. They're reading through your bio. They start looking through your Instagram highlights. They check those recent posts at the top of the account. They see how active you are. When's the last time you posted? How often are you posting? And also, what's the level of professionalism and the quality of the content? A lot of this gets a quick look before they hit that little follow button. They're doing that really quick evaluation to validate your business if it's something they're actually going to consider and continue to consider as a venue for their wedding. The last way that couples use Instagram specifically for planning and finding a venue is decision support. So they've already discovered you, they've validated that they're still interested, and now they need that decision support help. So they're looking for things like pricing transparency, packages, videos of real weddings there, a tour of your venue, reviews, behind the scenes. What are the different layouts? They want to see your spaces. All of these things really matter. So if you're not thinking about when you make a content strategy for Instagram, making sure you have content that covers all three of these bases, the discovery phase, the validation phase, and the decision support phase, you're leaving so many leads just sitting there without the information they're looking for to actually convert off of the Instagram platform. So let's dig a little bit in on what matters most on your profile itself. If you've done the content and you're making the reels or somebody's clicked through from a photographer post and found your venue, they get to the bio and what should they see? You have to have a clear and conversion focused bio. You know that bio? I'm talking the little piece at the top of the Instagram profile. You need to look at what's the kind of content and information you're putting in it. Do you talk about what type of venue you are? Do you do a few quick words about what makes you different? Do you have your city and state in there so they know where your venue is actually located? Did you keyword it a little bit based upon your area? See, I'm based in Orlando. So I would maybe put Orlando, Florida as my city state, but then in my bio, I might add Central Florida because people sometimes search both of those. So your city and state should be where your venue is located. But what's the geographical area and the keyword search terms that you would be chasing from an SEO standpoint to get your website to rank on Google? Those should also be in your bio. What are the keywords? Do you have a garden? Do you have outdoor ceremony space? Is it an all indoor venue? Make sure that when they get to your bio, they can see really quick where you're located, what makes you different, what it is you offer, so they can take that next step to look forward. Now, the other thing that's really important on your profile itself is the pinned post. Instagram has a feature where you can pin up to 3 posts to the very top of your profile, meaning when somebody lands there, you can choose what's the first 3 most important pieces of content that you want them to see, right? You want them to know what kinds of things that they can take action on. I always suggest having things like a video tour be available there. Maybe you have a carousel post that is frequently asked questions, like your packaging, your pricing info, any kind of pricing guidance, how to book a tour, like what the next steps are. You want to take them through that journey. That's why I think a tour video is a must. Vertical tour video. Don't be giving me horizontal stuff built for YouTube and your website over on Instagram. We're vertical on that platform. So you want to utilize these pinned posts. If someone were to get to your account and you want them to see the most important 3 pieces of information, what would you put there? Remember, you can mix up reels, which is video content, carousels, single posts, but what can you put there that's going to guide that conversation and you want them to know as quickly as possible? All right, next up are your highlights. What highlights are is that when you make Instagram stories, you can save your stories into something called a highlight. Think of it like a folder. So how can you start grouping this content that you're putting, right, up in your stories, how can you start grouping it and saving it? See, because when couples hit your profile, they read the bio, they look at some of the posts, and then they start flipping through the highlights and looking through things. So highlights should answer the key questions that you know they want to know information wise. Things like tours of the spaces, pricing, layouts, your FAQs, behind the scenes, meet the team, categories of content like that. Think of highlights like a mini website. When they get there, what do you want them to see so they can move through the funnel faster to take the next steps to reach out to you? Those are the three areas that matter the most when it comes to your profile, and they land there. But the most common question we get asked is, what do I actually post? What am I actually putting on the feed itself? I know you're hearing mixed conversations all the time. More videos, you need reels. Now carousels are popular. At the end of the day, the Instagram algorithm is going to just continue to shift and change. So if you utilize all of the pieces of content types that they provide us to be able to use, you'll get a good mix of people landing there and finding what they need. So the types of content that tend to do really well specifically when it comes to venues. I love being able to showcase real weddings. See, our industry is so spoiled because we have these amazing photographers that I know sometimes you have to ask a lot, but you get beautiful real wedding photos that you can use and share on your profiles. But you've got to be strategic with what photos you're choosing when you get the real weddings. Nobody gives a crap about an up close picture of a cake. That's not doing anything to sell your venue. So if you're going to take those real wedding photos, maybe you can create a carousel post highlighting 10 photos from the real wedding itself. Maybe you're a brand new venue and you don't have a lot of content. So from each wedding, maybe instead of a carousel, you're doing individual images. You've got to think really specifically what are the types of content that you're going to post. Of course, you want to feature the couple, but you want to look through that lens of choosing photos that highlight your venue. So instead of an up close photo of the couple cutting the cake and it being really close and tight, you actually want to pull back. See if there's a photo a little bit further back where you can see them cutting the cake in the room itself. You want to show things like ceremony setups, reception room setups, the portraits, and the epic moments. You're looking for those wow photos of moments. Now, I'm not saying detail photos, there aren't a place for that when it comes to inspiration, but I think you've got to focus on selling the venue first when you think about what pictures are you choosing. What are things that people are going to say, ooh, wow, I really want to get married there? Outside of just the real weddings, you need to be posting more content than that. Reels and videos are such an exceptional way for you to be able to educate your clients. See, people choosing a venue and getting married, most of them have never done this before. So you need to start teaching them. This is where you want to focus on face to video cameras, where you're talking to the camera and building that relationship. You can do tour tips, what questions to ask when you go on a tour, explaining things like what a ceremony flip is. You can use education. And if you're not comfortable with doing face to video, I understand. You can use content video to be able to show it. But you've got to be able to be teaching and educating them as to what this process is going to look like. If you don't love it when people show up on a tour with 8 people, you should talk about it. Make a video why it's most important for it to be the couple themselves and their most important decision makers being along on the tour and reminding them that more people is more opinions and more opinions can create more confusion. But if you're not educating them and finding a way to teach them this, then you get what you get. Educational content is perfect for reels. Now, behind the scenes content is fantastic. Being able to build trust, show the operation, what goes into it, this helps you establish value. When you're trying to be able to establish why you charge what you charge, show them that work that goes into it, how long it takes to set up, the effort you put into the catering, shopping for ingredients, prepping ingredients, cutting the ingredients, putting it all together, cooking the things, displaying the things. Give them a behind the scenes of what every bit of it looks like. You want to know why the landscaping looks great? Because this person mows it and this person weeds it and we put on fertilizer and we water it every day. And that's why you get these blooming, amazing gardens here. You've got to use some of this content to be able to establish your value as a venue. Now, things like social proof, being able to highlight your reviews, clients who've had great experience, that's fantastic. Focusing on vendor tags, meaning when you show someone's work, you make sure you tag them. That gets more eyeballs and more reach because you get shares from content like that. A lot of times that's the real wedding content that we see that gets those extra eyes. But when you start showcasing, here's the quality of vendors we work with, here's the social proof of people's experience. Social proof does also include vendors. You could take all of your preferred vendor list and do a content day, sit them down and interview them each on what their favorite parts about your venue is. So they're hearing from other wedding pros. So many great content ideas. Now, there should always be some sales support specific posts of things like FAQ, steps for bookings. You could talk about availability if you've got some empty dates on the first of the month. When I was at the venue, we like to post some of the available dates we had in the next 6 months for short-term bookings, just to highlight a few specific dates we were looking to fill and if we were running a promotion to fill them. So don't forget about those sales specific posts. That's an important factor when it comes to your content. Just showing pretty things and not giving people calls to action and telling them what they should do next is an epic fail of the use of your Instagram. It's not just a shout out into the universe platform. We can actually use this platform to drive conversion by focusing on calls to action and them taking the next steps. This leads me directly into how to utilize the DMs. The DMs are where you can have conversations with actual potential clients and where the conversions happen. This is where the couples start making micro decisions. So if you are one of those venues who are like, I'm not having conversations with people in the DMs, you're also probably one of those people who, I don't want to text with couples either. I just want to email. It's about time that you change your mindset because the next generation is spending their time on text message, but heavily having conversations in the DMs. They're having conversations with their friends in the DMs. They're reaching out to businesses. They're talking to brands, and you're missing an opportunity when you're not taking advantage of the DMs themselves. They're starting to make what we like to call micro decisions. They're asking questions about things like availability, pricing, next steps. You can actually move the conversation along. The most common thing we hear from venues is, I get ghosted on email. And I'm like, have you ever thought about starting the conversation in the DMs when they're reaching out to you and following your account and they say, oh no, I don't want to have another place to check. That's fine if you want to have that attitude, but stop complaining about getting ghosted because the DMs are an incredible place where you can see that they read the message. You can poke them again. They're already spending their time in that platform and you get responses so much quicker. See, couples really prefer low stakes communication before they book a tour. The DMs feel so much safer than email. I'm opening the door to chatting with you. It's more like texting with a friend before they're taking the jump to start having professional conversations in the email in the inbox. It feels a little bit more like I'm being supported and helped rather than I'm being sold to. So we can start so many different conversations in the DMs without being too salesy. One of the ways that people can start a conversation with you is being strategic about what you post in Instagram stories. When you're asking things like polls or you tell them, answer the question and there's a box below where they can answer it. What season are you planning to get married in? Have you already found your venue? Yes or no? They can reply to your stories and then it opens into a DM and you can start a conversation. So think about strategically, what are you posting in stories that could lead to that? You can also, as people are commenting on your account and your content, you can engage with their comments or their interactions. You can ask them things like comment the word packages if you want to see our packages. Now you can set up automations through a platform called ManyChat if this is something you want to automate, but you can also just have them comment the word packages and then you can start a DM and have a conversation with them there. Engaging with comments is such a great way for you to start those conversations. Now, here's my most favorite is when people follow your account. When someone comes in and follows my Instagram account, I love to quickly go in and start a conversation. Sometimes I can click on their account and see very quickly that they're an engaged couple. It might say it in their bio. It might be one of their photos. A lot of times, if they have a private account, I'm almost sure that they're a couple. I request to follow them back. Most of the time they accept it. And then we can start a conversation. I just say, thanks so much for the follow. How's wedding planning going? And that's all I say. I'm not being salesy. I'm not trying to chase them to book a tour. I'm not trying to send them my packages. I just say, how's wedding planning going? It's a super casual conversation. It's just a place to start. You'll be shocked at how many of them respond back and say, it's been so great, or it's been so frustrating, or now say, have you already chosen your venue or no? And sometimes they have, and they just followed our account anyways. But a lot of the times they haven't. Now, not everyone's going to respond back to you, but it's wild at the responses that you get. You can also, in a lot of your captions, you can start inviting people to DM you. You can put it in your bio also. DM us your preferred wedding date. DM me your vibe if you feel the venue fits. What's your wedding theme? Send us a DM. When you start putting that as your call to action and captions, people will start messaging you and be starting the conversation with you instead of you starting with them. So you want to guide the conversation in the DMs towards getting them to a tour. Once that conversation begins, you need to think of it as like texting with friends. We're not sending professional emails here. We're having quick, short, quippy conversations back and forth. So you can use simple scripts like, happy to help. What date are you considering? You can use the voice memos. I love the voice memo feature in the DM because then you're a person. If they reach out and say, oh, packages, I'll send a quick voice memo and say, hey, it's Shannon from Venue X. So excited that you're interested in learning more about our venue. I'm going to shoot you the link that has the packages, but let me know if you have any questions. That voice memo shows me as a person, not just a brand and a building, and then I'll send them over the link. Voice memos are great, and it really stands out because most people don't use it in the platform. You can also share a link to the tour scheduling, but only after you've had a few back and forth messages. You want to be really careful to not push too hard inside of this platform. Again, this is like opening up to a friend. I know they know they're talking to a brand and a business, but that's not really the place to be overly sales pushy. You want to be careful and cautious and be there as a helpful guide to guide them towards the tour, because you also don't want to be touring people that it's not the right fit. And I promise you, if someone's interested in a tour, you can start asking for their email address. You can book the tour and put it on their calendar. You can send them the link to your tour booker. Any of the above works really well. If you ever feel awkward or unsure about how to turn Instagram conversations into real venue tours, I have something you're going to love. It's called Booked in the DMs, and it's a mini training that shows you exactly how to start, guide, and convert DM conversations without feeling salesy or pushy. You'll get message scripts, conversation starters, and the exact steps to move someone from just browsing to ready to book a tour. And because you're a podcast listener, you get 10% off the training with the code BOOKED. You can grab it at venuehelpdesk.com. Just look for Booked in the DMs in the templates and tools section. This one small shift can change how you use Instagram, so go check it out. One of the best parts about having conversations in the DMs is DMs actually boost your algorithm, because once someone starts actually engaging in a conversation with you and with your content in any way, what happens is they start to see your content more and more. So all this energy you're putting into creating good content, educational reels and a tour video and things like that, nobody really sees it. Not as many as you would hope would. But once you start engaging and they start talking with you, they start seeing your stuff all the time. Your stories will start going to the front of their stories. So those meaningful conversations signal relevance inside of the platform that it makes it really important. Now, I have been screaming from the rooftop about selling in the DMs for years at this point, and nobody's really been listening. One of our venue members purchased the course just last month, called me 2 weeks after she took it and started doing it, and told me she had booked 7 tours directly from the DMs. Exactly what I say would happen, happened. The conversations move faster, quicker, more fluid. And yeah, she had to get into the rhythm of getting into the DMs each day and opening it up. But the same as you check your email and you check your voicemail, you're going to go in and start checking your DMs. So head over to the Venue Help Desk site and check out Booked in the DMs. You won't be sorry. Now, we've figured out what content to create. We've started conversations in the DMs. But how are couples actually finding your venue on Instagram? How do you get found? You've got killer content. You know how to talk to them. But how can you make sure they find you? Vendor tags are actually a huge factor of this, because as couples are looking through the Instagram and planning their wedding and just starting to get inspired in the very early stages of either I'm not engaged yet or I'm recently engaged and haven't started planning, it's like the algorithm knows. and it starts sending them this kind of content. So when you do a good job of tagging the vendors that you partner with, it actually creates this insane ripple effect. And photographers are the most important piece. Besides the fact you should always be tagging your photographers, both on the image and in the caption. You should be doing that because it's their copyright that they're sharing the images with you. But outside of that, couples start following photographers really early for inspo and ideas. So when your photographers post and they tag you, maybe they haven't location tagged you. Maybe they haven't included the venue in the caption. Remind them to. Because if a couple finds their content, falls in love with it, you don't want them having to ask, what venue is this? So you tagging them is as important as them tagging you, because it tells the algorithm we're all one big happy family here, and it gets more eyes on everybody's content. So those who are like, oh, it's such a pain in the ass to tag vendors, I get it, but do it, because then the time and effort you put into it, you will see the results on the other side. Now, there is an opportunity inside of the Instagram platform for the couples to be able to go in and actually search by location. They can go into the map search itself, or they can look at other people's location tags. An epic fail I see is so many venues, they actually don't tag themselves. They don't location tag their own venue. They think, well, it's my account, of course. But if someone is searching in the location tag, or they're searching by area, or they're looking for a specific business type and they're expanding the map, you're not going to show up if you don't location tag yourself. So if you have vendors that frequently tag you on the post, but they don't add the location tag, send them a quick DM and say, thanks so much for featuring our venue. Don't forget to add the location tag, because couples will see that content and be like, oh, what venue is this? And that location tag makes all the difference. Now, hashtags are still always going to be a factor. I wouldn't say they heavily search by it, but they might search wedding venues near me or the city that you're in with wedding venues. Instagram changes the rules all the time on how many hashtags you can use. It used to be 30, then it got shifted down to 5. Sometimes it's 3. I don't really know the perfect answer. Depends on when you're listening to this podcast episode. Go and look for what are the best practices for hashtags in this month and year that you're listening to this episode, because that will give you the right information. But hashtags are important. So think of your hashtags like what you want to Google keyword search for. It's really about using the hashtags that tell Instagram who you are, and what you do. So stop using hashtag wedding cake if you're not a baker. It should be garden venue, outdoor venue, barn venue, ballroom venue, and then add your city and location to that. That's how hashtags are being used the most right now. You're teaching the algorithm what kinds of content you're creating and putting out. And then the last thing is that couples are finding you from saved posts and sharing content with their friends. So this is why you have to be really strategic with what kinds of content you create and what the calls to action are. If I was to make a reel with a really pretty, just B-roll video happening in the back of our venue, and I put the most popular months to get married in Florida and listed those months, that's savable content. That's something people are like, oh, I'm going to save that. Or something that people are going to say, ooh, let me send that to my friend who's engaged. You're looking to create the kinds of content that someone would want to save or that they would want to share. And sometimes that's funny content, but that educational, helpful tips, they're saving that and coming back to read it later. All right, let's wrap up all these different things in our call today with a really simple weekly posting and a DM framework for venues. So here's what I'm expecting to see from you every week. I would love to see every week you do one real wedding post, whether that's a carousel of images or a single image where you tag every single vendor both on the picture and in the caption, giving everyone credit where credit is due. When you tag them on the image and in the caption, those tags are shown in different ways. So you really want to do it in both, because then it will go into their tagged, but they will also get notified that they were tagged so that they can share it. So you have to do both. So I want to see one real wedding post every week. I'd love to see one tips and educational, whether it's a post, a carousel with text on it, whether it's a reel. I just want to see you once a week doing something educational, once a week doing behind the scenes moments of something that establishes value, and one sales support piece. Now, this should be a mix of videos, carousels, posts. You want to also feature some of these things in stories, but if you're not killing it on Instagram right now, let's just start with 3 to 4 posts a week, a real wedding, tips and education, behind the scenes, and something that supports sales. All of those things are super important to be getting the information out there. Don't just keep showing pretty wedding pictures. It's not enough. Now, when it comes to the DMs, I just want you to initiate like 5 DM conversations per week. Look through those new people following you. If it's easier for you to start a conversation with a vendor, that works too. Maybe a planner has followed you, reach out and say, thanks so much for the follow. Would love to invite you out to the venue to come tour it, learn about your business. Who doesn't want planners referring them? It might be easier to start there. Also, remember to start those DMs by looking at your calls to action on both your stories and on the captions on your post to get everything going. And use those conversation starters in stories like polls and question boxes so that people can start engaging with you to open the door. You don't always have to chase them. They're right there waiting to have those conversations with you. I promise you, people didn't follow your account if they're not interested in your business and seeing your content and engaging with your business. So they've knocked on the door. It's time for you to open the door and welcome them in. Instagram works when your content aligns with how couples actually plan the discovery phase, the validation phase, that decision support phase. And now I'm going to push you to add one more phase, which is the conversation inside of the platform. DMs are where that booking momentum actually happens. And they're massively underutilized by venues. Massively. I promise you, I've been screaming it, and no one's doing it. So it's not a busy, overwhelmed place like the email inbox and directory platforms and text messaging. Even at this point, it's still a quiet space for venues. So that'll help you get ahead. Once you have a clear posting plan and a strategic DM approach, Instagram can become one of your most powerful lead generation systems. And it's not that I'm saying I don't believe in running ads on the Meta platform and all these platforms. Ads are a wonderful tool for more leads. But damn, guys, you could be converting these organic leads just by putting the time in the platform. That's it for today's episode of the Venue Helpline. Thank you so much for listening. We love helping you tackle these real life frustrations, but don't just listen. It's time to put this into action. Head over to the Venue Help Desk website and down in the show notes to grab the Booked in the DMs mini course that goes with today's episode. It's in our shop on the site. Use the code BOOKED for 10% off. Click the link in the show notes, and I can't wait to hear how your conversions happen.